Hey guys, it's Sarah again. Today we're going to talk about a television news package. And the reason that it's called a package is because from the reporter's end, everything is nice and neatly packaged and pretty much delivered with a bow. So when you see it on the news, you're going to see the anchor read the lead, which the reporter has written, so you guys have to write that as well. And you know how to do that, so no big deal. And then on the news, they would play the reporter's package, which is typically on average a minute 30. Again, that can vary depending on the story and depending on the circumstances, but let's just say for the average is a minute 30. And then at the end, the anchor would read the tag. So again, what's going to happen next? Just a couple sentences to kind of wrap up that story. So in the actual package, you're going to have a couple interviews. You usually want to have 3 separate people being interviewed throughout the course of this minute 30 story. 3 is a nice odd number. 1 usually isn't enough. 4 is usually too many to try to fit into a minute 30. So if you can stick around that 3 number, it usually works out really well. In package format, sound bites can be a little bit shorter. You probably don't want them as long as that 15 seconds that you had in your VOSAT. But if they're a good sound bite, that's okay too. But usually shorter ones can fit in a little bit better and kind of help the flow of the story. So what you're going to want to do is write the track that's going to be in this story. Then you're going to have a sound bite, then maybe some more track, then another sound bite. And it just kind of, depending on what the sound bites say and which ones you want to use, then you build the words around that to kind of create the story and tell us exactly what happened. Because those words that you're writing down, that would be, as a reporter, what you would go into a sound booth and voice, and then it would all be edited together. So when you're telling the story in this kind of format, you have a little bit more time, which is nice. Just kind of think of it, you're on the scene and you get to see what happened. Think of it as you're calling your best friend. How would you tell them what happened? Because you're always going to tell them the biggest news first, right? There's your lead. Then what happened next? That's how you can kind of start to piece together that part of the story. If you kind of think of it as a story that you'd be telling your best friend or your family or something like that. With hard news, it's a little bit different. It's kind of a little bit more cut and dried. You're kind of going to be following the most important information comes first, that kind of thing. But when you get into feature writing, that's when you can be a little bit more creative. And that's when you can have things like surprises that jump out in the story. So the idea that we were talking about earlier about burying the lead, maybe in a feature story, you kind of do keep some of that information that can come out later in the story. So the viewers have a nice surprise. They basically are discovering things the same way that you discovered them probably when you were out doing the story. So that's kind of a fun way to put together a feature story. So basically take what you've learned with writing the reader and writing the VOSAT and just kind of expand upon that. Think of it as building blocks. You know how to do those things, and now you can write a little bit longer version, and just takes a little bit more practice and you'll be nice and polished.